I literally wasn't going to make this video. Like, I'm quite literally flying off the cuff. And then I realized Lego Ninjago is quite literally a masterpiece. Hey, it's Allie. Welcome back to my channel. And I did really say I wasn't going to make this video, but when I was thinking about a video that I wanted to film today, I just kept coming back to Lego Ninjago. I recently watched the first season while I was doing my hair, and the entire time I was engrossed. Like, I didn't even think I was going to make it to the end of the season. I thought it was going to be a slog to get through. We'll get to all that. But genuinely, I found myself, like, the entire time I was like, how many episodes do I have left? Only 5? Oh my god. Like, it is crazy how well this show holds up, especially for being a, like, pre-streaming era cartoon. I think the thing about Ninjago that I wasn't expecting was for it to have an overarching plot and to be so consistently funny. I think there's a lot of, like, TV shows, especially that are very episodic, where sometimes, you know, some episodes, they hit so hard. And in some episodes, you're like, you know, they can't all be winners. They can't all be winners. Especially a show like Ninjago that was so contingent, and is still so contingent on toys and toy sales. It is crazy that the show was as good a quality as it is, and you can still watch it today. So I'm going to talk about it today because I have a lot to say. If at any time you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe, because I make videos like this all the time, and comment down below if you grew up watching Ninjago, and if you knew that the pilots were different than the first seasons, because that's the first thing I want to talk about. Let's jump into it. Okay, hello, hi gamers. A little disclaimer before we get started on this video. So I thought I was starting on season 1, episode 1 of Ninjago, and I was, but it was season 1, episode 1 of Ninjago, and not Ninjago Masters of Spinjitzu. If you don't know, 2 different things. Well, one came before the other. So Masters of Spinjitzu is the first one, and actually in this video I talk about the fact that, like, I thought I had watched a good amount of Ninjago before, but starting here I didn't recognize the, like, Ninjago from, like, I think it was 2011, 2012, and I was like, oh, maybe I just stopped after the pilot episodes. Wrong. I actually did watch, I went back and looked at a lot of the older Ninjago, Masters of Spinjitzu. I watched a lot of that, and this is where I'm gonna need your help. So in the comments below, I have some questions. Number 1, did they age up Lloyd? Like, is that a thing they did? Because Lloyd is a child in the first one, in the first, like, series, and he's not in the, like, he's the same age as everybody else in the second series, unless he's supposed to still be younger, right? But he also takes over as leader, and there was a whole thing with Kai was training to be the Green Ninja, but Lloyd is really the Green Ninja. It's a whole thing. Maybe we could talk about it a different day. So that's my question, is, like, are these 2 directly related to each other, like sequels of each other, or is the Ninjago that comes in 2011, 2012, is that like a soft reboot? It seems like a soft reboot because episode 1 of Masters of Spinjitzu is almost the exact same. Like, it's like in terms of, like, the events that happen, it's almost bar for bar the exact same. Like, oh, the ninjas are soft after their heroism, now they're gonna do something else. So everything else I say in this video is strictly about season 1. I don't really call back to anything else other than the fact that, like, I thought I had watched more Ninjago than I did, which I did. I've seen most of Masters of Spinjitzu, so I'm probably going to skip over that. I'm probably not going to do anything about that, other than the comments that I have, the questions that I have that I want you guys to answer in the comments about Lloyd specifically. He is a child in Masters of Spinjitzu. Do they age him up in the next series in just Ninjago, or does he grow up and he's still younger than everybody else? Because he seems to be the same age, and also he's the leader now. So, like, what's up with that? Anyway, enjoy the video. I thought that the first couple of episodes were going to be, like, the ones on Netflix, were going to be the ones that with the theme song that's like, Ninjago, Ninjago. That one, the one that's, like, very iconic. It was very iconic when it came out for the first time. No, it wasn't. Instead, it was this theme song, like a very watered down version of the theme song, which, like, I got a dog points off for that. I don't know why we did that. But also all the characters have already gone through a whole bunch of things. So apparently there was a season full of pilot episodes, because when I looked on, like, Wikipedia, it's just called pilots with an S, not pilot episode, like 1. like there usually is, it was pilots with an S, and that is where all the characters got introduced. And I realized that's where I stopped watching. It was during that in-between period where I was kind of like growing up and growing past like certain types of cartoons, and I just kind of grew up past that. So when I guess the actual Ninjago Master of Spinjitzu came out, I was already past like watching it, and I saw little flashes here and there. But yeah, all these characters fully fleshed out, fully like already went through some shit that they're referencing beforehand, and luckily I already knew. I have no idea where you can find these pilot episodes, because these pilot episodes weren't on Netflix, so I have no idea where you would find them. Maybe on YouTube. I'll look it up in post. But yeah, so if you're trying to understand who each of these characters are, I mean, it's a cartoon, you'll figure it out, but like, they're gonna reference some things you may not know. One thing I was purely shocked by this show is the fact that it has an overarching plot starting from episode 1. So the entire season is 30 episodes split into 2 halves, so 1A and then 1B, and it is 2 different stories that are connected, that one leads into the next, you know. I was not expecting every single episode to be like a continuation of the last. And these types of shows, usually what happens is they have like Amazing Spider-Man or Adventure Time is a really good example of this. Every episode, especially in the earlier seasons, are very much so like just episodic monster of the week type like nonsense, and then maybe at the end of the season you'll have like a character that's like, actually, behind your back I've been collecting all of these things that are gonna make me the biggest villain of all, and then you're gonna fight me at the end of the season. And it's like loosely connected, especially in more like superhero like shows like The Amazing Spider-Man, but really there are some episodes that just completely stand on their own, which is good in terms of like, you know, writing standing on their own. But back in the day this was getting kind of tiresome for a lot of cartoons, and so in came shows like Steven Universe or Gravity Falls was probably the biggest one. I remember the first time I had ever experienced something like that was actually the latter half seasons. Well, not the latter half, but like later seasons of Adventure Time. There's this episode of Adventure Time called like the dinner party or something like that, where they go to like this haunted mansion dinner party murder mystery thing. It turns out Jake like was orchestrating it the whole time, but Finn sees something very, very weird towards the end of the episode, and he's like, oh, how'd you do that? And Jake is like, what? And it turns out it was real, and that was like, oh, haha, it's a funny little haunted thing. And Finn is just like, oh, that's going in the vault, meaning it's going in the back of my mind and I'm gonna forget about it. And that was like a funny haha episode. You know, they do that all the time where it's like, oh, the thing that wasn't haunted, that we said was haunted, actually is haunted, right? It's a trope, we've all seen it before. Imagine my surprise as a little like 11, 12-year-old when seasons and seasons later an episode comes out called The Vault. When I remember so clearly like seeing that and going, oh my god, like that's the thing from the other episode, like oh my god. And that was the first time like ever, at least as a kid, that I had ever experienced something like that, because as a kid I was normally watching like pretty episodic shows. Like I wasn't watching anything that really had an overarching plot unless it was a movie, you know? So seeing that for the first time, like really, like I was like, oh my god, like this feeling feels so like good, it feels so satisfying. And then of course that led to another in Finn's past lives and all this other stuff. It's a moment that I like will never forget, and it is something that like I craved in cartoons since then. And of course with stuff like Gravity Falls, where even the episodes that seem like filler, even the episodes that like aren't directly related to the larger plot, it is though. And that is something that like I was like, this is peak, like this is what cartoons are like, this is it. Now I'm not saying that every single cartoon needs to be fully like serialized over the course of like an entire season, fully overarching plot. Sometimes shows can just be cute little multi-episode romps, okay? They don't need to like always connect and stuff like that. But when you have a story to tell, it helps. And I think also by this time in Ninjago's history, it was very clear that they couldn't keep doing this. Like the pilot episodes were great. They had like episodes here or there, right? Like kind of standoff one-off episodes of the ninjas learning to be ninjas, doing little things around the town and stuff like that. And then you had Garmadon, I think at the end, I think that's how the season ended, but they didn't defeat Garmadon, but like, you know what I mean. And that was like, oh, cool. Like that was obviously like a pilot, a test of what to come. When you go into this next season, if they were to continue to just do Monster of the Week, it would be very like lackluster. It would lose a lot of its shine and a lot of the things that make it popular. Now, don't worry. Cartoons have been doing that, especially cartoons that are fully based off of toy sales, which is what Lego like Ninjago is. It's fully based off of toy sales. We'll get to that. it is interesting to see them be like directly in the show reference the fact that they can't keep doing the whole monster week to week thing and that they need to do something else, and they actively go seek out a quest that's going to take the whole half of the first season that leads to the next quest, which is the whole half of the latter half of the season. It's so interesting to me that they did that. I feel like they did that on purpose. Like, obviously kids aren't gonna clock it, but like me as an adult, like writer, like looking at this now, I'm like, oh, you guys did that on purpose. Like that was your push to push away from that week to week stuff. And actually that episode ended up being really funny and like a standout like episode that I remember from the beginning of the season, because then they go on this quest. So before I get that, let's get into the characters. So we have Master Wu, who is the master, I guess. He is teaching all of the ninjas spinjitzu. In this season, he has a very hands-off approach. Like, he teaches them some things, like very like much so like, oh, you gotta be patient, wise, whatever, you guys have gone soft, whatever. But he's not doing a whole lot of teaching so much as he is just being like, you know, like Master Splinter. Like Master Splinter at some point didn't do a whole lot of like actual teaching so much as he was just kind of there as a parental figure in this world that gave them their mission to go on. That's kind of how it is here. And this season, at least, he's not really teaching them anything new. Like, oh, here's this new technique that I'm going to teach you. It's more just like, hey, here's this thing that's really bad. You guys should go fix that. Yeah? Yeah. I hate fandom.com. Oh my God. The amount of like, oh my God. The amount of ads on fandom.com should be despicable. Actually fucking despicable. All of the ninjas follow this like elemental power structure. So Kai has fire. He's the red ninja, if you couldn't tell. Zane is the robot. He's my favorite, and he has ice powers. Nia is the girl, which we'll get into her a little bit when we get further into the season. I feel like they tried their best to not just make her the girl, and we'll get into how they went about that and how I think like shows should go about that, especially in a show like this that is so like predicated on this kind of week to week superhero type formula. We'll get to that. But she can control water. There's Cole, who is also, I think, my favorite now, and he has like super strength. And then there's Jay, who's like the cutie patootie in love with Nia, and he can control lightning. And then there's Lloyd Garmadon, the son of Garmadon, can control energy. I like girly pop. He is so clearly like, y'all, okay, all the Voltron standees out there, y'all remember Keith from Voltron and how it is very clear like the audience has a favorite, and then you have the like favorite that you're supposed to like, and Lloyd is supposed to be the favorite that we're supposed to like because he's the cool ninja, he's the different colored ninja, he's the one who has the cool different power and the mysterious backstory, and I don't know why I'm doing this, but he is the one who is supposed to be like the coolest out of everyone, especially in the latter half of season 2. You are really supposed to feel like he comes in, he becomes the leader of this group, and we are supposed to just sit here and be like, yeah, yep. Like, I love Lloyd, don't get me wrong, but it's very interesting how these types of characters like come about. He gets a wolf in the second half of the season. Well, he doesn't get a wolf. He gets a wolf. The wolf turns out to be a girl. It's a whole thing. We'll get to it. But it's very interesting to me that like it is so clear they were trying to push this like Lloyd is so cool. Like he's the coolest, the way they did with Keith. And that was like kind of the downfall of Voltron, which is like an entire different video in of itself. Don't worry, I'll make that one day. But that was like a lot of the downfall of Voltron, is they were just like, let's just focus on Keith the entire time and not give anybody else any character development or breathing room. And I feel like they were trying to do that in this, but it failed in a way that was good. Like, I'm glad it didn't fully go that way. It is very clear that they wanted you to look at the mech, and also the fact that the wolf looked like a Lego wolf that you could probably get. Like, it's very clear, again, with the stuff that they're trying to sell, right? So Lloyd, anyway, he can control energy, and he's like the cool leader guy, okay? And he's also the son of Garmadon. And there's also Pixel. It's spelled Pixel, but it's pronounced Pixel. I did not know who she was when she first got here. I was like, who is this girl? Is she Zane's mother? Because the way they interact with each other, I was like, oh, that's his mom, or like somebody who is a motherly figure to him, right? No, she's Zane's girlfriend. Which, like, I'm like, when did Zane get a girlfriend? Like, what? The girl, I don't know. I don't know much about her. She got a lot going on there that I just don't know anything about. So sorry if I just kind of skip over her. So anyway, going back to the beginning of this season, they decide they all need to go on a quest because they've been very flabby. You know, they've been very, like, soft. They've gone soft. Master Wu tells them so and then beats them up. And yeah, they've gone soft. So now they're going on this quest. And on this quest, they're going to this pyramid that hasn't been, like, pretty much discovered yet. There's, like, it's just a pyramid that's just sitting there and they're like, oh, let's go in there. I'm very concerned about the, like, ecosystem of Ninjago because I thought it was, like, a tropical, like, island-esque, like, city, like a South Asian type of, like, city. But then you're like, oh, but there's a desert with a pyramid in it. That's not too far away. So, okay. Like, relatively speaking, it's not that far. You can say, like, oh, they had to ride on their new fancy ATVs. Let's talk about that. So they get these new fancy, like, machines, which is very clear, obviously, that it's meant to sell toys. If you don't know about Lego Ninjago or Lego Monkey Kid, these shows would not exist without these toys. So usually there's a toy set that comes out that's in this, like, IP, and they're like, here, to whoever's making the show, they're like, here's this IP, here are these new toys that we have, you need to incorporate these new toys in this, like, season, have fun. And I'd like to think they get a lot of creative freedom. I could be completely wrong about that, but it seems like they do, judging by how good these shows are. If you know anything, like, you know that, like, sometimes, like, corporations can have too big of a hold on the production of a show and the creative, like, freedom is, like, sucked out from it and it leaves it a shell of its former selves. But, like, Lego, it seems like they just were like, here's the IP, here's the Lego set you need to push, do it. And they do it because when the like ATVs get announced, they're like, oh my god, these are the coolest thing ever. And they spend like half of the season, like everything aside from like the last couple of episodes of the first half of this season is just dedicated to these ATVs. The entire first like problem is the fact that they're being tracked by something in the ATVs. You get to see them look, it's cool, okay? And if I was a child, I would absolutely tell my mom to go buy that probably $200 piece of plastic so I could have it. Absolutely. I had a Lego, like the Lego movie themed birthday party because I was obsessed with the Lego movie when it came out. And I wanted like a Lego like piece as my like cake topper / gift. And it was so expensive. We had to get the cheapest one available. And the cheapest one available was the police one. Like, he's a good character, don't get me wrong, but I would have liked like Lego Batman or something, but like it was probably like $300 and I don't blame my mom post-recession not getting me that, okay? Anyway, with that like product placement out of the way, they make their way to the pyramid and they go in and essentially they drag along this explorer dude who's largely unimportant. He's just there as like an obstacle for them to go on this adventure with them. They get in there and they're trying to learn teamwork basically the whole time because their teamwork is very shabby at best. And they get to the end, they accidentally set loose this snake lady witch snake thing. I don't know. She's a snake witch and she is trying to get revenge on a certain somebody. And then randomly out of nowhere, the coolest thing happens. She takes Kai's powers. That's just a thing she can do. Yeah, that's just a thing she can do. I was gonna say like, oh, she had to get the scroll first. No. That's just a thing she can do and she never does it again. Like, she never attempts to do it again. I don't know if she can only do it once, but she never does it again. And Kai doesn't have his powers for like the rest of the season until the latter half, the second half of the season. At the end of the season, when it's like, you know, clutch time and we really need him to pull through, he like loses his powers for a good amount of time. I have never seen a Red Ranger character like that be so low before. Like, the Red Ranger, like any type of Red Ranger character in any type of show is usually the one who's like, the one who's boosted up, the one who gets all of the cool stuff, the one who is like up here in the polls and the rankings. He's like the default popular character, right? And so to see Kai like kind of go through it and take a back seat for everybody else this season, like, that was very refreshing to see, especially for a cartoon that is that old. Now, of course, the same can't be said about Lloyd, but we'll get there. So the snake lady has this like rampage on the city of Ninjago, and it is so refreshing to see filler episodes still relate at least a little bit to what is going on. Also, the filler episodes were so creative. There was two big filler episodes I want to talk about. The first one was the news like episode, which was basically from the POV of the like this news station that like has been covering everything that's been happening right in Ninjago, and they're covering the like the snake lady's like rampage on the city. And this is so interesting to me because it continues the story, because by the time the episode ends, then the ninja get to Ninjago and they like are able to like start fighting her. So we don't have to have all this setup of like how the ninjas get to Ninjago. Who cares? They just got there. They were in a helicopter, right? Like who cares? How did they get there? Doesn't matter. How like what was the lady doing this entire time? That is like what happens in the background of this entire episode. And it also sets up where she's going next. Like it tells one of the camera crews like, where's the like scroll that I need? And they're like, oh, it's in the like museum, the Ninjago museum, like down the block. And they're like, okay, so they're going there. And again, it's very clear that like not only did they have like a lot of creative freedom, the fact that they have this much creative freedom in a filler episode to make an entire filler episode dedicated to just the news station. And there's another one about the paperboy, and both of these are like integral to the plot of the show. Like you can't skip them because it gives really needed context on how things start to happen. Like in the paperboy episode, the like boy who was like doing the papers or whatever ends up going to Master Wu in the end and telling them that like something is happening and you need to like fix it and like whatever. It's so interesting. It's just really weird to see filler episodes actually pertain to the plot, and to the point where I didn't even recognize they were filler episodes until we got to the end and the ninja hadn't shown up once in the entire episode until the end. So anyway, she's going towards a museum to get the scroll, and Master Wu's like, oh no, she's gonna go get the scroll. There's this forbidden scroll of spinjitzu, and basically she tells this entire story of how she was betrayed, and the ninjas start to learn this story as well from this other snake guy that's been imprisoned, and they're like, oh, so it was like Lord Garmadon, because Lord Garmadon and Master Wu are brothers, so obviously the person who like betrayed her had to be Lord Garmadon. They get to Master Wu, they tell him what's going on, and he's just like, about that. Actually, the person who betrayed her was me. Turns out the full story though is that these two, Lord Garmadon and Master Wu, went into the like snake people's territory back when there was peace. They got in trouble, got thrown into a cell. She freed them on the like pretense that there would be some type of promise that they would keep. Master Wu kept that promise, Lord Garmadon didn't, and that promise was to teach her spinjitzu. He teaches her spinjitzu after he makes her promise that she's never going to use it for evil, and she ends up using it for evil. Duh. And he's just like, wow, that sucks. They end up beating her and putting her back into like the thing. Oh, they steal the scrolls that his father was working on, which is like the forbidden spinjitzu shit. Like it gives you a lot of power, but it kind of makes you go mad. I feel like they didn't really touch on that too. We'll get to it later in the second half of the season. So the lady is like, oh, how could you betray me? You're a deceiver. You betrayed me after she betrayed him first. But okay, so she got a like a chip on her shoulder about that. So she goes to Master Wu to try and fight him. They bring out the second scroll because she has the first scroll. There's a second scroll. They get the second scroll. How did they get the second scroll? Unimportant. They get the second scroll and they're fighting like using it, and they're trying not to hold it for very long because obviously it corrupts the mind. Zayn ends up holding it, and I think it says a lot about Zayn's humanity. I forgot one of the most important episodes that is also a filler episode to, not really, but like kind of is. So they're trying to get the second scroll, and the second scroll is in this like adventurers guild thing. Again, the adventure guy, not that important. And Nia, is it Zayn or Cole? No, it's Nia, Zayn, and the blue guy, Jay. I think it's the three of them. Yeah, it's the three of them. The three of them go to this adventurers guild place to go get the scroll back, and shenanigans ensue. And there is it's Lloyd. It's Lloyd, not Jay. Sorry, it's Lloyd, because there is this mirror that shows their deepest fear. And when Lloyd steps up to the mirror, it shows Garmadon, and he's afraid of becoming his father. Nia walks up to the mirror, and it's her like in normal clothes, and she's afraid of becoming normal again because she is kind of like the odd one out. And then Zayn walks up to the mirror, and he is just a bunch of code, and he's afraid of losing his humanity. And I think it says a lot about the fact about his humanity that the scroll affected him in the way that it did. So fast forward back to the end of the first half of the season, he is using the scroll to fight against the lady. He ends up winning, and he's holding the scroll, and he's like about to go mad with power, and they're like, drop the scroll, drop the scroll, my guy. He doesn't end up dropping the scroll because the lady, snake lady, in a one last ditch effort, sends Zayn away. Everyone thinks he's dead, but he just gets sent away to the Never Realm, which sets up season 1B. The second part of the season. Okay, I'm gonna do this very quickly because we're running out of time. So season 1B, everybody thinks Zayn is dead, and then they realize he just got put into the Never Realm, and so they're gonna go to the Never Realm. Master Wu was gonna go by himself on like this suicide mission because they had these like tea leaves that were supposed to bring them back, but it's not strong enough to bring them back, but they don't know that. But they're like, no, Master Wu, we're gonna go. So they end up beating Master Wu, tying him up. There's a callback to the like beginning of the season, the way back when they were like, oh, you guys are out of shape, you can't even beat Master Wu. Now they can beat Master Wu. It was a nice callback. They end up going to the Netherrealm. They break their new ATV, and their mech is also there. The big fancy mech that they want you to buy, that's there. And they go into this place that's like in this never-ending winter, basically. And there's this like evil emperor that has taken over the land and has frozen pretty much everything over. And there's only like one fire left. And you know, Kai is feeling it because he's just like, wow, I could actually help you guys out if I had just, you know, if I had my powers back. Also, he was being a brat to Mr. Wu in the beginning, which is why Mr. Wu has this like very guilty conscience towards the beginning of season 1B, because he was just like, this is all Master Wu's fault. He's the reason why I don't have my powers, because he was mean to that witch and blah 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 blah. But it's like hello, like what? Like I was like, that is such a Red Ranger thing to do. Let's calm down. Anyway, so they decide to like help out this town for a little bit, and Cole is also like feeling guilty because the tea leaves that they did take with them, he lost them, and so he's feeling guilty. His whole thing throughout it is like trying to make that up. He ends up finding this like Yeti monster thing in the woods that takes him to like the traveler's tree that gives him the thing. I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of where I clocked out. Like I was doing my hair, it was getting really late at this point, and I was just kind of like in and out of the bathroom where I had like my setup going, and I just kind of was clocking out at this point. No offense to Cole, love Cole, I didn't really care. Oh, anyway, I love Cole though. I love Cole as a character, I just really didn't care. Anyway, so moving on, Jay didn't really get anything this season, like in terms of character development. I'm realizing he didn't really get shit this season, sorry, because Nia even got a little bit of character development because everything is ice, but obviously ice is water, and so she's like, why can't I like control this or whatever, and the like old lady who runs the village is just like, oh, you just gotta tap in, basically, you literally just have to lock in, Nia. And of course towards the end, both her and Kai get themselves together. She's able to control ice. Don't know if this is gonna come up again, but she's able to control ice now. I don't, like, y'all already have an ice user, so I don't know how exactly that's gonna work, but like, I thought she was gonna force the ice to become water and then use it like that, but she was just able to like knock a few ice shards over, which means that she could control ice. So once again, I don't know how that's gonna work out. I guess we'll see in the second season if they even continue on with that whole she can control ice now thing, or if they'll give it some rules, because like, anyway, and then Kai, like in their darkest moment, like they're about to get eaten by a dragon, is like, oh, I'm gonna use my fire. He uses his fire a little bit to help the town, so it's coming back to him. The old lady was just like, it's not gone, it hasn't been taken from you, you just forgot how to use it. Like your will to use it basically is what got taken away, and you just have to remember how to do that. And he does in this like darkest moment, whatever. Lloyd Lloyd basically is like, I'm gonna go to this emperor's place to go get Zane back, because he's clearly being held prisoner there, guys. In the Ice Emperor's palace world, he is clearly being held prisoner. Right, okay, yeah, right. So he goes on this little quest adventure, and he meets this wolf who he names Red, which, like, it's giving Voltron. Anyway, he goes on this adventure to pretty much go find Zane, go to the emperor basically, and there's not much going on other than the fact that he finds Zane like where he last was there, and then he finds and there's some clues there about like what happened to Zane. He finds the wolf, and this wolf is like very much so like a Lego wolf. Like the texture on it is crazy. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow just scanned in like the Lego 3D wolf and just scanned it in and then somehow like painted over it to give it like mouth movements, because it looks so similar to like how an actual real life Lego wolf looks. All right, moving on. Like, if we're being honest, I don't remember, again, this could be just because it was so late, but I really do not remember much of what was happening with Lloyd, other than he was on this like personal quest or whatever, and nothing really happens. Like, he doesn't really get any character development. It's just that Lloyd gets to be cool and solo with a wolf who turns out to be this thing called a not changeling, fangling. I'm gonna say changeling, but that's not the word. I'm gonna put it on the screen, whatever the word was called. The wolf is a she, and turns out to be this girl who can transform into a wolf, and she was just keeping that from him this entire time, and they're headed in the same direction. They have this weird ass spat for like no reason, but then they end up becoming friends because they have a common enemy, which is the emperor. Anyway, So there, she tells the story. Also, the animation change. Oh my god, how could I forget? There's twice in this entire season that there are episodes where the animation completely changes, completely, and it's always in the backstories, like flashbacks, that we see it. One of the filler episodes, probably like the weakest filler episode of the like 2 parts of the season, is when like these bad guys who I guess were in season 1, I mean the pilot season, I guess, end up breaking out of prison because they learned that the ninjas aren't there anymore. And they're just telling stories of like how the ninjas bested them. It's alright. Like it doesn't really mean anything like at all. And Pixel ends up coming and like defeating them in her little Shogun outfit. Honestly, I think that was the reason for the episode, because like the Shogun mech thing shows up like twice in the season in 2 different filler episodes. And I think that was what they were trying to push there. Like, oh, we have this like Shogun mech now. Time to like push that out. Do that. Anyway, yeah, that episode was weird, but like it had like a complete animation change. Like it was 2D animated, like 2D animated rigs, and it was really interesting. And I don't know how I'd necessarily feel about it. I think it worked for the backstory where it actually mattered, like the plot backstory about Akita is the name of the girl, and how basically she lived in a race town village full of like changelings, and there was like a Formlings, that's their name. It was Formlings, not Changelings. Anyway, because I think Changeling is already a thing. And Akita was scared that she wasn't going to have, like, a change form, basically, when her changing came, which is, like, I guess the coming of age thing where they learn what animal they're going to be able to change into. She had a brother, and her brother's like, oh, don't worry about it. And the reason why she was worried is because there was a person who apparently didn't change and he became evil. His name is Vex. He ends up being the big bad of this season, and he, I guess, was pissed off that he wasn't like a formling. And then he was like, oh, you guys, like, you know, abandoned me, basically, like you guys shunned me from the village. And they're like, we never did that. But he's like, okay, yeah, you never physically banned me, but also you guys kind of like shunned me. Like you guys wouldn't talk to me, you wouldn't look at me, all of these other things. You guys would talk behind my back. That never gets resolved. Like I hate when systemic things get like brought up like that and then just never get solved. Because while yes, he is like jealous and mean and rude and like is craving power and power only, it is interesting that the core foundation of this like whole group of people is the fact that they can all change into animals. And the real question lies, is it like, okay, what happens if somebody ends up not being able to turn into an animal? Like, how are you gonna treat them? Like, he didn't just come up with that for nothing. Like, yeah, he may have left the village on his own, but it sounds like y'all were pretty much bullying him the entire time. Like, I don't know if that was just a plot hole that never got addressed, but I think that's weird that the whole town was just like, well, you never transformed, so like we never kicked you out, but like we certainly didn't treat you fairly. Now, I'm not saying he was justified in anything that he did, because he ended up just being really wanting power in very conniving different ways. But it's interesting that that never got addressed, because what happened if Akita didn't end up becoming a formling? Like, how would y'all have treated her? Interesting. Anyway, she tells Lloyd all of this, and Lloyd is like, damn, I'm so sorry. But she ends up becoming a formling anyway, because we know that she can turn into a wolf. And anyway, Vex ends up coming back. Her brother can turn into a bear, by the way. Vex comes back with a guy, the Emperor, and pretty much freezes everybody. They're not dead, but he just freezes all of them in ice. And the bear brother dude tries to like attack, but he ends up going missing during the battle. And Akita gets mad, and now she wants revenge, and that's her whole thing. They end up making it to the Emperor. And almost immediately upon seeing the Emperor, Kai figures out that it's Zane. Yeah, no shit. Like, it was kind of very obvious from the beginning. It's a good, like, twist that you could see coming from a mile away. Like, Zane ends up becoming very corrupted. Well, okay, let me step back. This is what happened to Zane. So Zane was trying to fix the mech, and there was a way to fix the mech by, like, pretty much jacking into its system via his body. But if the connection gets severed at any point before it's finished, he will have his entire memory reset. Vex is like following him for a good amount of time, sees this, cuts the the connection while he's trying to do this thing. So Zane reboots and has all of his memories erased. I have a feeling this isn't the first nor the last time it's going to happen, because I was like, didn't this happen beforehand? But maybe I was just thinking of this happening. But I swear to God, Zane had like a evil reboot beforehand. Like, he has gone evil before, right? Like, I'm not tripping about that. I'll look it up later. But anyway, Vex capitalizes on this and, hey guy, look, you're actually the emperor, and if you want to come with me, we could take back your throne because you have a lot of power. Because Zane ended up using the scroll to like help him out, and he was getting corrupted by that. So he ends up using the power to take over the other kingdom that was there at the time. He becomes the Ice Emperor, and the fucking scroll that is like now infused in his hand with ice is now like taking over his brain. So now he's not this evil emperor. He's just kind of like confused. He is angry, like irrationally angry, but like he's not that evil because they want to be like, oh, Zane has humanity, because I feel like the scroll wouldn't be able to affect him if he didn't have humanity. So the idea that, like, you know, a little callback to the idea that his greatest fear is losing his humanity is the fact that he has humanity. He is partly human, at least in some respects, because the scroll affects him. I don't know if that's exactly what they were going for, but that's how I interpreted that. Anyway, so Lloyd immediately figures out that Zane is the emperor, tries to speak to him. Zane doesn't remember anything. They get thrown into the dungeon, or Lloyd gets thrown into the dungeon. He doesn't get there with Akita. He gets taken. Yeah. Lloyd got taken and Akita got left behind. That's why they're separated. In the dungeon, we find out that the prisoner that had been there the entire time that we all thought was Zane was actually the brother, whose name I forget. Sorry, the bear guy. And then the emperor, who used to be emperor of the last kingdom, who got turned into an ice soldier, comes down and frees them both and is like, let's go get Zane back, because you say that he's actually a good man. So, and we're just going to take your word for it. He has committed a lot of atrocities, but we believe you. We believe you that this man used to be good, random stranger. Yeah, sure. I guess they had nothing else to go off of. So they're like, we might as well believe this random stranger. Anyway, they go, they get there to Zane. I'm sorry I'm recapping. I need to recap for the sake of myself to really like understand what the fuck happened. But they get there and Zane again, Akita actually gets there first to Zane and starts fighting him, and she obviously cannot fight him because she just has a knife and like nothing else. Like, she's not that powerful at all. We get to see the brother turn into a bear again, and he's fighting with the guy. They're losing. All right, this is like the episode also like mirrors the episode of like everybody else, all the other ninja are trying to go to the kingdom, the like palace, that's the word, the palace, to go find Lloyd because they think something bad happened to him. And this is the part that I'm like, okay, like I know we needed everybody to be on the same page, but like, can we Nia, because she's supposed to be a smarter particle, figures out somehow, some way that Zane is the emperor. And it is in the most like at first they were like, oh, well, the scroll is the only thing that could have done all of this, and Zane came in with the scroll and it corrupts his mind. Okay. And then they're like, okay, but how? And she's just like, I don't know, somehow, some way, I think Zane is the emperor. Like, I get it. Everybody needed to be on the same page. You're running out of pages to write. But like, she really did say verbatim, I don't know, but somehow he is the emperor. Okay. All right. Anyway, we're getting to the end now. Zane and Lloyd end up having this fight that like, I'm not gonna lie, at this point I was clocked out. It was almost 1 a.m. in the morning. I was clocked out. I was. But the fight was pretty interesting to watch, at least for a little bit. And it doesn't matter because in the end, they just end up being like, this isn't you, Zane. This isn't you. And the like bad guy tries to be all like, oh, I'm gonna do it. And then I think Lloyd says something along the lines of like, protecting the innocent, that's what you do. And that rejogs his memory, and then he gets all of his memories back. They end up locking up. No, they end up just banishing Vex again. And I'm like, at some point, when did we just kill this guy? Like, you know what I mean? Like, at some point, he's just too evil to live, but like, whatever. Zane gets his humanity back, or he always had it, but like, he comes back to normal. They end up going back to Ninjago. They leave the place. At the very end, Akita says goodbye to Lloyd and kisses him on the cheek. Why? Like, they had no chemistry the entire time. I remember the like gay thing y'all were talking about in my gay video about how y'all see Lloyd as like asexual. And while I like, sure, like, that's the headcanon works. Also, I can see why you got to that conclusion, because it's not necessarily that Lloyd doesn't like the girls that he talks to. It's that they just have such no chemistry. They were not flirting with each other at all during this entire time. Why all of a sudden does she like have a crush on him? And I forget what year this cartoon was made. And, cartoons like this, these like superhero cartoons, they tend to do that with their female characters, like Nia, she tried really hard to be more than just girl in this. And it kind of worked with her little thing of like, mastering ice and water for some reason. But it really fell flat. It really fell flat. But yeah, so that's the season. I actually thoroughly enjoyed that. I was not expecting to enjoy that, especially something that, you know, back in the day during that time, this was purely made for the sake of selling toys. Where like, I know like Lego Monkey Kid is also made purely for the sake of selling toys, but I didn't expect us to have like a level like Lego Monkey Kid like is here. Ninjago's like here. I was expecting Ninjago to be down here. I really did expect the entire season to just be episodic nonsense that I was going to have to push through to get to the more that I know to be the more like story rich seasons. And I was going to do that and like make like maybe a live stream or something about it. I had no intention of making a video, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized how much I enjoyed the season, how much of the overarching story, like it was coherent and good and very funny, and how much like I understand why you guys wanted me to watch Ninjago so much, because it's just held up so well over the years, like better than like I know there's a new show out and that show is actually really good, a lot of people are saying, but the fact that I can go back and rewatch these or like watch them for the first time really and have them still hold up, like you could tell me that show was made in like 2020 and I'd believe you. I was not expecting the level of like depth and character development, or like character writing rather, and like just overarching plot that this had. And that actually makes me very excited. Now don't get your parties at a twist. Okay, I'm not going to do a video for every single season. There are 15 seasons. Okay, I can't do that. I will watch them, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, what I think I'm going to do is watch like a chunk of like seasons and then maybe do a live stream with you all where we can talk about it, and that live stream will be up on my YouTube as like a video for you guys to watch afterwards, just so this isn't gonna become a Lego channel, guys. As much as I love the Lego stuff, this cannot become a Lego channel. All right, anyway, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you did, you are a real one. Let me know down in the comments if you liked Lego Ninjago and how you feel about it nowadays. Was very pleasantly surprised. Very pleasantly surprised. Be on the lookout, okay? If you don't know, Witch Hat Atelier just got announced in anime, and I had been reading the manga, but as you can tell, I only have up to volume 3 because going anywhere, just like Dungeon Meshi, at some point, it just got really hard to find. It got really, really astronomically hard to find because it was sold out everywhere. But now I'm hoping that, you know, there are more in stock now, and with the anime like announcement happening, this show I think is going to come out in 2025. You bet your ass I will be making a video about this because I started reading this again. Oh my god, there's so much there. There's so much. If Dungeon Meshi was about racism, this is about ableism, and actually even more so. So be on the lookout for a video about this. Of course, Lego Monkey Kid, I'm waiting for at least a good chunk of the episodes to be dubbed in a way that I can like actually go find it. I know it's already dubbed, it just hasn't come out yet, but like once that happens, I won't make a video until the entire season comes out, but I will probably do a live stream about it. So if you guys want that, please let me know down in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Love and peace.